Hi, my name's Juliet, and today I'm talking about the BBC taped drama script format in Scrivener 3 for Windows. When I first started writing, I attempted script writing, specifically script writing for the BBC. That's why I've chosen this BBC taped drama template to use, because I know a bit about how it should look. I've also put a link to the BBC page with this format's requirements in the description. The template is set up with a lot of behind-the-scenes formatting, which makes it pretty easy to use. In the front matter you have a title page, which takes information from the metadata in compile and from your profile, so you'll have to make sure that's all completed, or overtype what's there. Before you start typing the actual script, go to Format, Script Writing, and click on Script Writing Mode. You'll need to do this again to go back to standard text mode. I'm not sure what effect not going back would have on your writing, but it's probably best not to find out. So scripts are made up from scenes, and you need to create a new document for each scene. The standard text document in this template is set up to be a scene and is coloured yellow. You'll see there is already some code in the document when you open it up. This is for your location information. Simply start typing with your int or ext and select from the list. Then add your location, day number and time of day. Scene numbers will be added automatically. All uppercase and lowercase is automatically set with all the formats, so you don't have to worry about that either. Before I go on to how to change to different elements, it seems there are a ton of different ways to do this. You'll have to experiment to see which you prefer. First, I want you to look in the bottom right corner here. See it says Scene Heading? That's what we're on. If you click on the pull-down list arrow, you'll see the elements available, and you can select from here, but you don't have to do it that way. Let's do another detour for a second. Go to the Format menu, Script Writing, and Change Element to, and you can select directly. You'll also see some shortcuts. Below that, there's Show Script Elements menu, which you can bring up on the screen to select from. You can also use the shortcut Ctrl plus /, then the letter by the element to select it. Except Scene Action doesn't work. Probably because E is specified for two different actions. OK, back to the text, because that's not all of your options. When I press Return from the scene heading, it changes to Scene Action automatically. And as you can see, all the formatting is again set for that in plain caps, apart from the fact that you need to enclose this as square brackets, a fact that I forgot later on. This is next because you would always have that element after the scene. Now for the other formatting selection options. If I go back and put my cursor in the location text, you'll see down the bottom of the screen that it tells me that Enter will create another scene action paragraph. However, Tab will give you a transition. Now you can press Enter and get a list of options to come up on the screen, from which you can select. Transition itself is plain bold text at the dialogue margin, which is used for things such as Cut to. Let's delete that and go back. I need to select character, so I press Enter and select from the list. When entering character details, type the name, don't type the colon. That's automatic. Once you've started your script, a list of names to select from will begin to appear as you introduce the characters. Press Enter and the format automatically changes to dialogue, because that would always be next. Type your dialogue, and on Enter you'll be set to character again, then dialogue to the end of the scene, unless you choose something else. If you want to use voiceover and out of view after your character name, go back and press space after the colon. Type an opening bracket, and you'll get these two options to pick from. If you want to put any instruction before the speech, such as interphone, You'll have to do that entirely manually as far as I can see. Okay, I think I've covered everything, but honestly, I can't be sure. Personally, I think using a combination of Tab and Enter is the way to go for the most efficient workflow when changing from one element to another. In Compile, you have a specific BBC Tate Drama format in Word, and you can export to other script writing software. There should be no need to change anything in the Word format from the defaults. As you can see, it looks exactly like it should. The formatting is achieved by changing the left-hand margin in the document. The only potential issue I see with this format is, if you were lucky enough to have a script accepted, it doesn't use styles in Word, so you might have to go through and reformat your document at that stage, especially if anyone else needed to work on it. Without that, adding additional elements would be difficult, or you may have to use different software anyway. But all in all, that's pretty easy to use. And what about ebooks? Well, that's a topic for a video next week, because it took a long time to work that one out. So, if you've subscribed, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.